Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty huge question, and we're going to look at it through the incredible lens of Persian history.
So think about this. How does a civilization survive its own end? What happens when its cities are turned to ash, its libraries are burned to the ground, and its government is just gone? For 3,000 years, one civilization on the Iranian plateau faced this exact threat over and over again. And they survived, not by building thicker walls, but by building a more resilient mind. This is the story of that internal fortress.
Okay, so our story, it doesn't start with some big invasion from the outside. No, it begins with a collapse from within, an intellectual crisis where the smartest person in the room walked right into a dead end.
I want you to just picture this for a second. You are at the absolute top of your game. You're El-Ghazali, the most celebrated professor in the entire Islamic world, head of the most prestigious university in Baghdad. And one day, right in the middle of a lecture, the words, they just stop. But Ghazali's crisis wasn't a sore throat. It was like a total system failure. The very logical framework he'd built his entire world on had suddenly revealed itself for what it was, a prison.
And here's the absolutely brilliant part. Ghazali used logic to prove the limits of logic itself. He writes this book, The Incoherence of the Philosophers, and in it, he basically argues that reason is a fantastic tool for arranging truths you already have, but it can't actually generate any new ones. It's like logic can give you this perfect, detailed map of the prison, but it can't give you the key to the door.
So this created a huge split. On one hand, you had the philosophers, guys like Avicenna, who built this magnificent, perfect fortress of reason. They could prove God existed the way you'd prove a math theorem. But you know what? It was a cold, distant truth. Ghazali argued for something totally different, something he called taste. Think about it. You don't know what honey is by reading a chemical analysis of it. You know it by tasting it. His big idea was that the heart is an organ of perception, capable of a direct, vital experience of the truth.
So Ghazali basically diagnosed the problem, right? But the solution, well, that came from another genius who decided to build a whole new floor in the architecture of the mind.
This philosopher, Suhrawardi, he comes along with this totally radical idea. He says, what if there isn't just the physical world we see and the abstract world of ideas? What if there's a third place, a real objective world right in between? He called it the mundus imaginalis, the imaginal world. This is a place where symbols and archetypes and visions, they aren't just, in your head. They're real. They actually exist objectively. And this is the core insight right here. According to Suhrawardi, your imagination isn't just for daydreaming. It's a sensory organ. It's like an antenna, specifically tuned to perceive this imaginal realm. I mean, this was a total game changer. Suddenly, poetry, art, myth, they weren't just fluffy entertainment anymore. They were actual forms of research. You were gathering real data from a higher dimension of reality.
And this all leads to this incredible new model for what it means to be a complete human being, often described using this metaphor of two wings. See, a soul needs both to fly. You need the wing of reason. That's your logic, your science, the map of the world. But that's not enough. You also need the wing of revelation, your intuition, your vision, that direct experience from the imaginal garden. With both, you don't just go in circles, you go up.
So this culture, they've just built the most sophisticated intellectual fortress the world had ever seen. And it happened just in the nick of time. Because the outside world, it was about to face the ultimate stress test.
And then, in the 13th century, the Mongols arrived. And you have to understand, this wasn't a war. It was more like a geological event, an extinction-level event. Just look at this number, 1,700,000. In one city, Nishapur, the death toll was so high, they literally stopped counting and just started building pyramids out of skulls. This wasn't conquest, it was erasure.
The source material calls this the Great Nigredo. It's an old alchemical term for the blackening, the moment everything dissolves into chaos before it can be reborn. This was the absolute zero of history. Cities, governments, libraries, the entire physical hardware of their civilization was just deleted.
The scale of destruction is almost impossible to imagine. There's this saying that the Tigris River first ran red with the blood of the people, and then for days it ran black with the ink from all the books of the great libraries that were just thrown into the water. Can you picture that? The physical knowledge of an entire civilization just dissolving away. So how does anything survive that?
Well, it survived by becoming intangible. When all the physical fortresses, the stone walls, and the paper libraries were destroyed, the culture retreated into these portable technologies, technologies of the mind and spirit.
Okay, get this. Take the Persian rug. You might think it's just a decoration, right? Wrong. It's a piece of survival technology. It's a portable sanctuary. You've got the border, which represents law, a safe, ordered space. Then you have the field with all the flowers. That's your own private garden you can unroll anywhere, even in a ruin. And right in the middle, the medallion. That's the source, the unifying center. It's a complete, coherent universe you can literally carry on your back.
See, when the physical state becomes the enemy, you can't rely on law books. The survival manual, the real operating system, has to be stored in a different format, something you can remember, something you can pass on under extreme pressure. It has to be a story. And this brings us to the core survival protocol, and it's all encoded in their national myth. The problem? You've got this tyrant, Zahak, whose snakes are literally eating the brains of the youth, destroying the future. The solution has two parts. First, the yin move. The mother, Faranak, she hides the future king, keeping that seed of hope safe. But then comes the yang move. A blacksmith, Kaveh, just a regular guy, he ignites a massive revolt. And what does he use for a banner? Not some royal flag. He uses his dirty leather apron.
And here is the absolute punchline of the whole story. That blacksmith's humble, dirty apron, it became the imperial flag of ancient Persia. Think about that. It was a constant, visible reminder woven right into the symbol of power. It basically told every single king who sat on that throne, hey, you're not here just because of your bloodline. You're here because the blacksmith, the common person, consents to you being here. Your power ultimately comes from the people. And that, of course, brings this whole 800-year-old story right into our living rooms. The Persians survived their apocalypse because they carried their world inside them, in their carpets, in their myths, in their hearts. So it really makes you think, doesn't it? If our world collapsed tomorrow, if the internet was wiped and our cities went dark, what portable fortresses have we built inside our own minds? What stories, what symbols would we have left that are strong enough to carry us through? What's your portable fortress?